Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Canadiens Connection podcast right here on Rocket Sports Radio. We are here each and every week to talk about the Montreal Canadiens, to keep you informed about them, to keep you engaged with your favorite NHL franchise and entertained, of course. My name is Amy Johnson. I am your host for today's show and every show each and every week. And I'm going to get to my co-host in a minute, but this is episode 385. A new voice in the Canadiens crease. What went wrong and what comes next? Dun, dun, dun. It's a big week, and we're going to talk about it. And when I say we, I mean myself and my wonderful co-host, who is our founder and president here at Rocket Sports. His name is Rick Stevens. What a week it's been.
It has been. Lots of news, lots of activity, lots of change in Montreal.
Definitely.
Lots of cold weather in Montreal as well.
Same in Pennsylvania.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, very, 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 very cold.
So what's the groundhog going to say on, is it Monday? I think it's Monday.
Oh, it is Monday, yeah. Punxsutawney Phil, right? Pride of Pennsylvania.
Wyerton Willie in Ontario, and it's Fred Lamarmont in Quebec. Was it last year? No, it was the year before that Fred died like the night before or something.
Where's Shuba Canady Sam?
He's in Halifax, I believe.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
We'll see what all of the...
Do they do playoff predictions as well?
They should. Yeah, it's been an interesting week. I've been kind of like on the all Canada tear this week.
Oh yeah,
myself. Yeah, watching the Scotties stream
women's curling. Yeah,
on the TSN live stream on YouTube.
Nice.
That's been fun. And I'm also, I have to take a second just to say that I am absolutely, I might even choke up just saying it out loud. Gutted at the news yesterday of the loss of Canadian comedic legend
icon. Yeah,
Catherine O'Hara. I choked up when I heard the news, and I'm not afraid to say that I actually shed more than a few tears when the tributes from Eugene Levy started coming in, Dan Levy, Macaulay Culkin, who, of course, Catherine O'Hara played his mom on Home Alone, and his tribute to her started with just one word, mama. And that's just like, oh, forget it. 71 years old, just way too early. Yeah, really going to miss Catherine O'Hara.
Real talent. Going to have to put on the watch list some things, Best in Show and A Mighty Wind and
Waiting for Guffman, and got to throw some Home Alone. Well,
SCTV and all that.
SCTV, Beetlejuice, all of it. Yeah. Our thoughts to the friends and loved ones for Catherine O'Hara. That's a true loss for everyone. So yeah, it's been kind of like the all Canada news this week. But the Canadiens, they certainly had a busy week themselves. What we're going to do this week, as we do every week, is we're going to kick things off on the show today with our first segment, which is our week in review, where we're going to recap the games that the Canadiens played this past week, get you up to date on the latest roster news, that's injury reports and things of that nature. We will bring you the prospect news, both basically, junior or European prospects for the Canadiens, as well as AHL and ECHL updates as well, and give you a couple of the biggest highlights around the world of hockey for this week. All before we then move into our second segment, which is where we tackle our big topic of the week. And this week, it's undeniable what the topic has to be. The Montreal Canadiens goaltending reset, accountability, change, and the road ahead. Eric Raymond fired this week. Marco Marciano getting a promotion from Laval, taking over as the interim goaltending coach. We are going to pick this all apart and get to the bottom of why this decision was made, why it was the right decision to make at this time? Where do they go from here? Everything related to Canadiens goaltending and the shakeup that occurred this week. We will, of course, also have a question of the week for all of you. Actually, it's a 2-part Canadiens Connection question of the week for you to consider. And of course, whenever we ask you a question of the week, we literally want you to send us your responses. We'll tell you how later in the show, but we literally want you to send us your responses, because then the following week, we do what we're going to do in the third segment today, and that is we pick the best responses that we've gotten over the past week, and we read them on the show. So it's going to be a great show today. Lots to talk about. Probably shouldn't waste any time.
All right.
Let's get right to it. Starting with the recap of the games that the Canadiens played since our last show. Starting with last Saturday's matchup in Boston. Kind of a grudge match between the Canadiens and the Bruins. And, you know, it really looked like Montreal had this in hand. They had a lead through 2 periods, and then they didn't. And Boston ending up winning this one 4-3, which not great for the divisional race.
That's true. Some good news here.
Yeah.
Cole Caulfield with a hat trick, 2 goals while on the power play. This game also saw the return of Alexander Texier to the lineup. Arbor-Xhekaj also returned. It was Veleno and Struble that were scratched, along with Sammy Blais. And as you said, the Canadiens had a lead after 40 minutes, leading 3-2. 2 goals in the third period by the Boston Bruins. 2 goals in very quick succession, 12 seconds apart. And both goals are shots that Sam Montembeault needs to make the save on. Sam Montembeault just 16 saves in this game. So the Canadiens did a good job of protecting him, but he gave up 4 goals and took the loss. It was a loss to an Atlantic Division opponent, and those have happened quite recently with Detroit, Buffalo, and Boston. And the Canadiens, in this case, lost consecutive games for the first time since the 7th and 9th of December. We don't usually do this, but I just want to take a quick look at 3 of the Boston goals, because this was a bad start for Sam Montembeault. I just want to explain why we say that. The second Boston goal in the second period, it was a power play goal by Morgan Geekie. Morgan Geekie's first goal of the game. And it all started with Mike Matheson driving the Boston goal while shorthanded. Drove the Boston goal while shorthanded, gave up the puck, and Boston turned it, and Matheson's caught up the ice. So just want to say that I'm not blaming Sam Montembeault for this goal. However, when Pastrnak came in, Montembeault overcommitted and completely lost his net behind him. He was well to the left of the crease. I think if Pastrnak had wanted to, he could have put it in himself. There was a gaping net behind. Instead, he passed it off to Geekie, parked at the right post, and who knocked it in. And here, I'm not blaming Sam Montembeault for the goal, but I am saying that on that goal, we got a sense of it wasn't Sam's night. He was a bit lost in his crease. He wasn't tracking the puck very well. So let's jump ahead to the third period, and these were the 2 goals that really stung the Canadiens, stripping that lead. They had a 3-2 lead coming into the period. And Boston won 4-3. The Fraser Minton goal, a backhand, an NHL caliber goaltender has got to make that save. And even Sam later on the Monday admitted that it was a bad goal. And I saw someone, it was a member of the Montreal media who said, and fans were complaining about Montembeault, said, have you ever tried to save a backhand from an NHLer? They're unpredictable, you know. Yeah, well, that's why. And like, why are you beating up on fans? No, that's why they're fans, and the guy who's supposed to be stopping the puck is in the NHL. Silly defense. The goal that made it 4-3 was also a power play goal. It was kind of weird. It was again from Morgan Geekie, a long shot, blocker side. And the puck got lost in the back of the net. It wasn't, Montembeault knew it was in. The officials didn't know right away that it was in. Lindholm was near the front of the net, but Montembeault wasn't screened. And some said that the puck may have gotten slightly deflected by Jake Evans high, but Montembeault should have been covering enough of the net that it doesn't beat him short side, and he had time to adjust. So 2 bad goals for Sam Montembeault, and that's when the temperature about the goaltending issue really ramped up in Montreal.
Definitely. So then Tuesday, the Canadiens were back in Montreal, back at the Bell Center, hosting the Vegas Golden Knights, and Dobes in the net this time. And they get to overtime, winning it in overtime, 3-2.
Cole Caulfield with a goal in this game, and that was his 30th goal of the season. It was he extended his scoring streak to 6 games. Jake Evans with the overtime winner. It was a beauty. And I believe Jake Evans got the first star by the media in this game, but with all due respect to Jake Evans, lovely overtime winner. But this was all Jakub Dobes. He was outstanding. And it's rare this season that you can say the goaltender stole the Canadiens a win. Jakub Dobes did just that. 32 saves, 188 goals against, 941 save percentage. He was outstanding. And even Bruce Cassidy, after the Vegas coach, after the game, credited Dobes. He said, offensively, I thought we generated some good looks. They did. The Vegas Golden Knights generated some very good looks. Just some of those pad saves by Dobes were really remarkable. He had a terrific game.
And so then Thursday rolled around. This, of course, and we're going to get into it more later, but this is now the day following the news that Eric Raymond had been relieved of his duties. So Dobes getting the start for the second consecutive game. And I don't know if it was that shakeup. I don't know if it was the fact that the Canadiens were hosting the Colorado Avalanche, who were playing as the Quebec Nordique. First time in how long that we've seen Habs versus Nordique at an arena in Montreal. But Montreal just absolutely wiped the floor with them, winning this 7-3.
And I don't know. It was odd seeing the Nordique. We've seen the Nordique jerseys before, and from a nostalgic kind of view, it's nice to see. And full credit to the Avalanche for paying tribute to the Nordique. But I didn't like seeing that blue in the Bell Center. I didn't. It just brought back all the memories of the hate and I don't think the Canadiens have ever worn red while the Nordique wore blue. Back then it was white was the home team. But anyway, that's just a side point. Lots of scoring in the first period by the first 7.5 minutes, there were already 4 goals. The Canadiens were up 3-1 at that point. It was Noah Dobson that got the game underway in the first minute. Really nice, in the last week or so. The second line has taken some criticism. Well, it was Oliver Kapanen that won the faceoff that led to the first goal, to the Dobson goal, and Hudson and Slavkovsky got the assists on that goal. So really nice start for the second line. Then Nick Suzuki with a power play goal and a shorthanded goal. Again, just a beautiful feed from Oliver Kapanen. Lofted it, a puck that Suzuki was able to catch up to, go in on a breakaway and score. So the Canadiens were in control after the first period. And then again, it was Jakub Dobes who, in the second period and third period, made some outstanding saves. And the Canadiens just built from there with their lead. There was an unusual setup with Matheson and Gooley on the top pair, Hudson and Dobson together on the second pair, which was good. I thought the top 4 defense all played pretty well. And the Canadiens unusually are now 18-6-0 against the Western Conference. Bodes well once we get to, well, they're not. Are they going that far? Are they going to the Stanley Cup final?
I'm not predicting that.
Let's not go there. But again, this was Jakub Dobes. I think he got the second star in this game as well. But really timely saves. He had a standing ovation. The Bell Center was chanting his name. There was that huge save on the breakaway by Girard. And then right after that, Nathan McKinnon, credit to Jakub Dobes. He was really good.
He absolutely was. Again, I said this last week, going to say it again this week. Not surprised to see who your first star pick for the week is Jakub Dobes.
Jakub Dobes gets first star, and why not? 2 wins against teams that probably little faith that the Canadiens would come out with 4 points against Vegas and Colorado. They did. In those 2 wins, Jakub Dobes had a .243 goals against, .921 save percentage, and he's boosted his record to 18-5-3. And maybe the most maligned, 17-5-3, the most maligned 17 win goaltender in the league, because he's constantly put in the same basket as Sam Montembeault, and many are saying it's been a struggling season for him. It has not.
No, it hasn't. Your second star of the week is Cole Caulfield.
In 3 games, he had 4 goals, 4 points plus 3, 2 even strength points, 2 power play points, 11 shots on goal. And I said he had that 6-game scoring streak.
And coming in with your third star of the week, one Jake Evans.
Jake Evans had 2 goals and an assist for 3 points, a +2. But those 2 goals were both game winners. The one in overtime, obviously. 2 game-winning goals for Jake Evans, so he gets the third star.
You do have an honorable mention, though, this week.
5 points for Nick Suzuki, a +4 in those 3 games, so he gets an honorable mention.
The struggling list, however, continues to have occupants.
It does, and last week, Phil Deneau was on the honorable mention list, I believe. It's not just Phil, but his line, Deneau, Gallagher, and Anderson didn't look very good this week. Anderson a -3, Phil Deneau a -3. They had a tough time. And of course, Sam Montembeault has got to be on that struggling list.
I should mention that Sammy Blais, Joe Veleno, and Jaden Struble all scratches during the week. And so obviously they weren't in contention. So the Canadiens, through 54 games played, now with 67 points, a record of 30, 17, and 7. That is good enough for 4th in the Atlantic, 8th overall in the NHL, putting them in a wild card spot.
3 teams, Montreal, Buffalo, Boston, all tied with 67 points. Buffalo gets the nod because they have a game in hand. Boston's behind Montreal because Montreal has a game in hand on them. And that puts the Canadiens' current odds of making the playoffs at 71.1%, virtually unchanged from last week, which was 70.9, even though they had the 2 wins against the tough opponents.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't get easier.
Yeah, speaking of tough opponents, Canadiens have 28 games left. They have the 8th toughest strength of schedule left.
See how that shakes out for everybody. In terms of the roster, we'll obviously delve into this in much greater detail in the second segment. But yes, on Wednesday, Canadiens president of hockey ops, Jeff Gorton, announcing that goaltending coach Eric Raymond had been relieved of his duties, and that Marco Marciano, the longtime goaltending coach in Laval and the St. John's Ice Caps and the Hamilton Bulldogs, the list goes on and on, will serve as the interim goaltending coach for the Canadiens until the end of the season.
And as you said, we'll break this apart in the second segment and go deeply into it.
Mm-hmm. In terms of injuries, Lina is still very close to returning.
He's ready to return. It's just, what are they going to do? There's not really a spot for him.
Yeah.
Who are they going to? It's when they figure out what's going to happen, then he's ready to go.
Yeah. Alex Newhook, he's been out since November 13th with a broken ankle. He looks like he might be a little ahead of schedule, actually.
Yeah, making great progress. The original prediction was mid-March. He is likely to return after the Olympic break.
And in the words of the Canadiens' social media admin themselves with their tweet earlier today, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Jakub Dobes getting his 3rd consecutive start in goal on Saturday night when the Canadiens play the Sabres. Basically
the same lineup that was featured on Thursday night. A little bit of a tweak on the defense pairings. Matheson's back with Dobson, Hudson with Gooley playing the right side.
All right. Let's now do a little bit of a check-in on the Habs prospects around the world.
It's time for the Rocket Report. The Rocket Sports Media Team is your premier source for information about the Laval Rocket, the AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, as well as Habs prospects playing in the CHL, NCAA, and leagues around the world.
First, we want to highlight a Canadiens prospect who is playing over in the VHL. He has played some games in the KHL this season, but playing in the VHL right now. And that is, speaking of goaltenders, Yevgeny Volokhin, playing for Chimik Voskresensk. He's had a bit of a good week.
Bit of a good week, absolutely. Posting 2 shutouts this week. Thursday night, made 25 saves. Last Sunday, made 41 saves. Both of those games with shutouts. He played 3 games. He gave up 1 goal and made 94 saves. He's had an exceptional week.
Absolutely. He has, as I mentioned, he's played 4 games for Spartak Moskva in the KHL this season as well. Just a reminder, he was a 2023 5th-round pick by the Canadiens. And his record in the VHL this season has been pretty darn good.
18-6-4, a 147 goals against, 948 save percentage with 5 shutouts.
All right, then.
You might have seen him at the Canadiens development camp in in July. Good-sized goaltender, 6'3", 168, and he's 20 years of age.
Wonderful. Michael Hage back in the headlines again, recording 3 assists for Michigan as the Wolverines downed Ohio State 6-4.
35 points for Michael Hage. That's 12 goals and 23 assists in 25 games. He now has 1 more point than he had recorded all of last season.
Laval Rocket, they still trudging on, continuing on. They finished their Western road trip last week with a 2-game visit to Calgary. They won their first matchup against Calgary 5-3. The bad news here is that David Reinbacher left the game early with an injury, did not return, and is now day-to-day.
Yeah, he hasn't played this week, and again, a tough situation. You know, David Reinbacher's been a bit injury-prone, and so out currently day-to-day with an upper body injury.
Then 2 days later, on Monday, Laval had beaten Calgary 5-3 on Saturday. On Monday, they dropped a game to Calgary 6-3. Then on Friday night, they were in Syracuse. Syracuse is never an easy opponent, particularly in their barn. But Laval did come out with 2 points, beating Syracuse in overtime 2-1.
The overtime winner scored by Adam Engstrom. I believe it was his 9th goal of the season. He's placing 4th in the AHL for goals by defensemen. And he's played a lot fewer because of his being up with the Canadiens. He's played the fewest games of any of those defensemen who are in the top 5. He's having a superb season in Laval.
So through 43 games, Laval sits with a record of 25-14-2-2. That's good enough for 54 points. Still in first place in the North Division, 6th overall in the AHL. They are just trucking right along. And so they will have another matchup against Syracuse today, Saturday. Then they head home to Place Belle, where they will host the Utica Comets on Wednesday and the Cleveland Monsters on Friday. 12 Riviera Lions are having a rough go of things. They snapped what had been a lengthy losing streak by putting together a couple of back-to-back wins. But they are now on another losing streak. This time they have dropped the last 4 consecutive games. And so they are sitting 6th in the North Division, 25th in the ECHL. Let's hope they can turn things around for the defending Kelly Cup champions. You know, anyone who's listened to this show for a significant amount of time knows that one of our notable friends of the show who has joined us on the show here many times. It's been a while. Maybe we'll have him back again this summer. Would be former Canadiens goaltender Charlie Lindgren.
I believe Charlie said he's one of the most frequent guests. He's pretty proud of that, and he said that when he retires, he'd like to come and be the third host of the Canadiens Connection.
Well, yeah, there you go. Well, he, one of the things that we always really admired about Charlie Lindgren is his work ethic and his compete level. No professional athlete likes to lose, but Lindgren takes it to a whole new dimension. Well, he was in goal for the Capitals against the Red Wings in Detroit on Thursday. Game was tied at the end of regulation. Goes to overtime. Lindgren gets injured right at the end of OT. But because Logan Thompson was out he didn't dress as Lindgren's backup that night because he had taken a puck off the mask the night before. So he was out. And so they had called somebody up from Hershey. And that's when things got kind of special, Rick.
So injured and clearly injured.
Not just a little bit.
Yeah, he was clearly injured. Charlie Lindgren stayed in goal for the shootout, gutted it out, and the Capitals ended up beating the Detroit Red Wings 4-3 in a shootout, which is a help to the Montreal Canadiens. And while everybody was celebrating, you could see that two teammates helped Lindgren down the tunnel as he limped.
He couldn't walk off the ice on his own.
And just a real gutsy effort by Charlie Lindgren.
Absolutely. And we hope he gets better soon. Two rankings came out this week, league-wide rankings. First was from The Athletic ranking their annual ranking of NHL arenas. And the top three might be a little interesting.
They split it into categories to do their rankings: location, amenities, atmosphere, affordability, and created a fan score. They also had some rankings from the beat writers who visit the various arenas. And in third spot was the Benchmark International Arena in the home of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Number 2, T-Mobile, Vegas Golden Knights Arena. And number 1, the Bell Center.
Well,
yeah.
Was it really up for discussion?
Well, that's what they note in their commentary of the Bell Center, is that the atmosphere was ranked first amongst all arenas. The beat writers at 9.9 ranked it first. Fans ranked it first. The location was ranked first. Amenities, well, they got a ranking of 6th. And affordability, if you've been to the Bell Center, you know why they're 21st in affordability. So that was the only big knock on the Bell Center.
The other ranking that came out this week was from the Daily Face-Off, ranking the rebuilds in the NHL.
Yeah, I thought this was fascinating. And in this, they show that in their opinion, Daily Face-Off, number 3 best rebuild goes to the Chicago Blackhawks. Number 2, the San Jose Sharks. And number 1, Jeff Gorton, Kent Hughes, and the Montreal Canadiens are ranked to have the best rebuild so far. They've improved in points, 55 in 2022, 68 in 2023, 76 in 2024, and 91 last season. Projected to be somewhere between 97 and 100 points this season. They're not in their Stanley Cup window yet, and we heard that from Kent Hughes, but they're a couple years away and on the right trajectory.
Definitely. All right, we're going to take our first break here on the Canadiens Connection podcast. Coming up after this break, where we'll hear a message from our sponsors over at DraftKings, we are going to tackle our big topic of the week and talk about the big goaltending shakeup that took place this week. You are not going to want to miss that, so stick around because you're listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
The jaw-dropping moments that make hockey, hockey. Experience them all with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. New customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. Pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21-plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025. All rights reserved.
And welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast right here on Rocket Sports Radio. Once again, my name's Amy Johnson, your host of the show. With me in the studio, of course, is my wonderful co-host, Rick Stevens, our president and founder here at Rocket Sports. You can follow both of us on X if you are so inclined. You can find me at Flyers Rule. You can find Rick at Rocket Sports. It's our main account here at Rocket Sports, so that's one you definitely want to follow. You can also follow the podcast in particular at Habs Connection on X, but also on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget, if you haven't done so already, if you like this kind of content, if you're a Canadiens fan and you want to hear weekly talk about the Habs, what they're doing, the games they played, their strategies, their prospects, tackle big topics every week, interact on the show, then you want to be sure to hit the subscribe button as well. So earlier this week, the Canadiens made a significant and very telling decision when they when they moved on from goaltending coach Eric Raymond and promoted Marco Marciano from Laval to take over on an interim basis. Okay, so while the results in net this season have really made it feel like something was imminently coming, the timing and the language used by management this week raised some really important questions. Jeff Gorton, and we're going to hear him say this in a little bit, but Jeff Gorton talked about the need for a, quote, new voice. And that phrase really can mean a whole lot of things. There's accountability there, maybe needing a little more clarity, a shift in philosophy when it comes to goaltending or prospect development. So today we're going to dig into exactly what's actually gone wrong with Habs goaltending, how much of the blame belongs where, and whether this move now, replacing Raymond and promoting Marco Marciano, is about fixing the present, whether it's about protecting the future, or maybe something somewhere in between that covers both of those. So before we get into breaking down each actual personnel figure and each goaltender in this equation, we're going to look at Montembeault, we're going to look at Eric Raymond, we're going to look at Stefan Robidas, Marty St. Louis, Jakub Dobes, Jacob Fowler. We're going to look at the litany of all of it. But first, we want to ask the general question and discuss who is at fault.
It's a good question. And Canadiens fans have been discussing that all season long. We talked about that a little bit last week. Let's turn to Jeff Gorton. He spoke to the media this week, and he gives us some insight in this particular clip.
I think, listen, this is an unfortunate part of the business. Eric's done a lot of good things for us. We've had some success with the goalies under Eric, so this is not a one-person reflection. This is just an organizational decision that we made to have a new voice and move forward like that. And, Marco has history with our goalies and some success, so we just felt like at this time it was the right move.
Okay, so he says a few things there. Why Marco? Well, Marco has a history with the goaltenders, particularly a little bit with Sam, for sure, a lot with Jakub Dobes, and obviously more recently with Jacob Fowler. And as you said, that they, as a organization, they decided that they needed a new voice. He said that also that the blame doesn't fall on one person. This isn't the Canadiens saying Eric was 100% at fault. And he goes on to compliment Eric and said that he's done some good things in his tenure with the Canadiens. So who then is at fault? Well, it is. There are a number of people who have contributed to the goaltending issue that's lingered all this season. We can point out a few of them, and I think it's pretty obvious. Sam Montembeault. Sam's having a terrible season, a dreadful season, and that's happened. That started in preseason, and for all those people that were hoping that the conditioning stint in Laval would completely help him rediscover his game, it hasn't happened. He had an excellent start against the Washington Capitals, and he looked shades of himself back then. But for the most part, he just he has had a tough season. Mm-hmm. Who else? Well, you got to share some of the blame with Eric Raymond. Mm-hmm. He just wasn't being a positive influence to the goaltenders anymore. His message wasn't getting through. Maybe he wasn't delivering the right message to them. Maybe the communication with he and Marty wasn't such that the message was getting through to Marty so that Marty could make the appropriate goaltending decisions. I think Stefan Robita's got to be roped in here too, because it's not just the goaltenders, but the defensive system that has been a big problem. There's been a lack of defensive accountability in the choices that have been made, and so he's got to share in the blame. And then, of course, it's Marty's show. He's the head coach. We've seen that he's made gut-based decisions that have favored Sam Montembeault. Sam Montembeault's got favorable treatment in terms of how he's been deployed, and even when there was the 3-goalie rotation, being sent off privately ahead of the team to relax in a hotel, and so to put him in the best possible situation. And I think it's fair to say that he's undermined Jakub Dobes at times, and stripped his confidence. And you think about the times near the beginning of the season where Jakub Dobes was playing well, and if Jakub Dobes had a good game where he played well, Marty would say, well, that's because we played well in front of him. And if Montembeault would have game after game of bad play, Marty would make the excuse that the Canadiens didn't play well in front of him. So I think all of those, that the entire group, and this gets back to Jeff Gorton's comment, that it's not just on one person.
Yeah. But if we are going to break this down piece by piece, component by component, let's start with Sam Montembeault, because Sam Montembeault is the person who has occupied the Canadiens' crease throughout this season, who has struggled, who has had much difficulty. So starting with Sam Montembeault, the one thing, and you and I talked about this during the week after some of these comments had come out, the one thing that irks me about Sam Montembeault that is very unlike many of his counterparts on the team, certainly his counterparts in the crease, is that there's not a whole heck of a lot of self-accountability. You don't, if Jakub Dobes has a bad game, he's emotional about it, and he'll be the first one to tell you, I didn't play well. We've heard Jakub Fowler, Jakub Fowler had some, during his call-up, made some rookie mistakes. He was the first to own them up and say, I can't make mistakes like that. It's never going to happen again. I'm going to learn from it. Other members of the team who aren't even goaltenders, if they know that they had a bad game, they own it. Sam Montembeault doesn't do that. Sam Montembeault, to me, always has an excuse. And I don't think that Sam Montembeault is ever going to reclaim whatever confidence or consistent even mediocre reliability that he used to have until he starts holding himself accountable. And
I remember when he went to Laval and played those 2 games, and then had a bit of extra time with Marco Marciano. The reporters asked him to reflect on the beginning of the season. And he said, I was my own worst enemy. I was too hard on myself. I was playing well, but I just was too hard on myself, and that affected my confidence. Well,
No.
that's a lot of nonsense.
It is.
And when he spoke to the media on Monday, and this was after that bad start against Boston, he was just full of excuses and again saying, geez, there was just nothing I could do.
Yeah.
He spoke about the previous 2 games against the Bruins and the Sabres, and he made the one admission that the backhand on Minton,
Fraser Minton.
he should have saved, and admitted that was a bad goal. But he said against Buffalo and even the other goals against Boston, these are goals on which I can't do much.
Okay.
Well, an NHL goaltender can and should, and we've seen Sam as well, and he's spoken about it after games. If he's ever screened, Sam does not. You remember Carey Price? A number of goalies, they will get physical with the opposition in front of them, opposition forwards. They fight around the crease, around the screen, to move around the crease and fight for position so they can see through the screen and break the screen. Sam just sits back and I couldn't see it, so I couldn't stop it. And that's
It's infuriating.
That's not what an NHL goaltender does. The fact that he said he couldn't do very much against Boston or against Buffalo. If he can't, then he's not the goaltender that's going to be able to help the Canadiens get to the playoffs and do anything in the playoffs. He said, you shouldn't look too much at the statistics. I'm continuing to work. Well, he may be working very hard. The results just aren't there. And it's not just confidence. There's his ability to track the puck. His rebounds are poor, and that's partly a tracking issue. His glove hand's been poor. And, there was a lot of defenders that came out for Sam this week. And their first point of counter attack was, well, listen, no one knows more than Sam how bad he's playing.
No.
Really?
Sorry, I disagree.
I disagree too. He doesn't claim that he's playing poorly.
No. Well, it's either a complete lack of self-awareness, or it's, I'm going to tell myself this and everyone else this over and over until I believe it. It's one of the two, but he's not going to fix what needs to be fixed until he can admit that the things need to be fixed, and that until he can admit that he's not playing up to par.
And just to recap, Montembeault had become unplayable. We've said that before. Terrible start in early December. Lost both games he started in the AHL. When he returned from the AHL, he won 3 straight games. Although he didn't look good, the Canadiens were outscoring his problems. He was giving up a bad goal or 2 per game. He was terrific against the Capitals, lost in overtime, and then he had bad starts against Ottawa, Buffalo, and Boston. I'm not going to go through all the statistics, but it's not just his raw numbers; it's his rankings. Amongst goalies in the NHL who have played at least 15 games, he's tied for 7th worst in terms of goals against and 4th worst in terms of save percentage. He's bottom 10 in terms of low danger save percentage. He's giving up low danger shots. And there was a graphic by TSN that he has one of the lowest save percentage ever. There's a group of 5 of them or so by a Habs goalie with 15 games or more in a season. Sam's just he's losing. He's losing against the Bruins and against the Sabres. His save percentage against the Sens was horrible and was very fortunate to win that game. I think, part of the issue is that the media, particularly in the last year or two, has overhyped Sam and his there's still the question of his preparation over the summer, and even more recently, not only last season, but after Sam had his stint in Laval and Fowler was sent to Laval, we heard from the Montreal media saying, okay, Montembeault's back. He should start all 9 games between now and the Olympic break, which in retrospect, this is blind cheerleading. It's not anything objective, and that doesn't help Sam Montembeault.
Even at the time that was said, that was a ridiculous thing to even suggest. And
Yes.
now, 7 games, six games into that 9-game stretch, that suggestion could not have aged worse.
It's ludicrous.
Yeah. Okay, so Sam Montembeault has plenty of his share of the blame, and who knows when that's going to get corrected, how it's going to get corrected, how it's going to get addressed.
One thing I will say about Sam Montembeault and the opportunity that Marco Marciano isn't somebody that will let things slide.
No, he
Marco
is not.
is intense.
Yes, he is.
He's passionate about what he does, full of energy, completely different from Eric Raymond, but he is intense.
He may look quiet.
He's very small in stature,
And he doesn't say a lot. He's a quiet-natured person off the.
he's funny off the ice, and
He is.
we know him quite well.
We do.
But on the ice, and the image that I can pass on to you, and I thought of this this morning actually, and we were trading messages about in the preparation, and we were at practice. This is years ago. And you had said it might have been Michael McNiven that he was
At
working
Plattsville,
with.
we were at.
Yeah. And at practice, and I have this image, and there's pictures in our archives of Michael McNiven, his mask tilted up. He's got his hands on the crossbar, and he's been asked to push the goal around the ice. I don't know why. I don't know what happened, but Marco wasn't getting the results that he wanted. So Marco stood on the back of the net, on the mesh, and propped himself. And he was eyeball to eyeball with Michael McNiven, who was pushing the net and Marco around the ice. It was intense.
And just exhausted him.
McNiven afterwards said, he just about killed me.
Yeah.
And yes, Marco demands work ethic.
Yes, he does.
And has ways of getting his message across.
He does. And we'll, I guess, we'll before we even go further with this, I guess we should say, congratulations, Marco Marciano.
Absolutely.
We have been saying for years on this show, when is Marco Marciano going to get his shot? When's he going to get his call up? Because he's put in the time. He's been patient. He has made it through many administrations and different AHL affiliates with this organization. And he keeps coming back and keeps being brought back because of the excellence that he commands in his position. And I think that he's going to do a fantastic job. And I think that he'll get the permanent job.
Longest tenured coach with the Canadiens organization in the organization right now.
Yeah, he's been there since what?
2013.
Okay, yeah.
And it was an issue where Vinny Riondo, who was the goaltending coach at the time, was taking on more kind of the assistant GM duties. He was traveling more. And it was Vinny that brought Marco in, had experience in the queue. Marco also has his own business. We promoted it on the show before. Blocker Sleeve.
I wrote an article. Yeah, I did a full feature article.
It's a training kit for goaltenders. Marc-Andre Fleury is on the website promoting it. Yeah. Marco is if fans don't know about him, he's well known
and respected,
in hockey in all leagues.
So we are very pleased. We are sorry for Eric Raymond. Never fun when someone loses their job, but we're very pleased that finally Marco Marciano is getting his chance. So yes, we need to talk about Eric Raymond. He is the person who lost his job in all of this. And we have been saying for a while now, I mean, was it even one of our big questions at the beginning of the season? I know it was a question that we asked last week on the show. When is Eric Raymond going to be replaced? We may have even talked about it pre-season here on the show because it was obvious that Eric Raymond wasn't really the right fit.
No, and he was from the previous regime, came in with Dom Ducharme, and he did have some association with the Rangers organization, so Jeff Gorton certainly knew about him. But here's Jeff Gorton and just reinforcing why the change was made.
I just feel like a new voice in the organization for all goalies is, we just, Kent and I and Marty had a long chat, and that's where we're going.
So it was a collaborative decision. Marty was brought in. Jeff Gorton, Kent Hughes talk all the time. They thought a new voice was needed, and not with respect to any one goaltender to get them going, but it was needed for all goaltenders. Of course, Eric Raymond's going to be, I think, most known for his work with Sam Montembeault. Before the season, Eric Raymond had said, "We make small adjustments in Sam's game. We're still working in the same framework." So it becomes easier for him when we hit a bad game or a rough patch. For Sam, those rough patches are never very long. Well, I think that obviously is not true this season. And that belief, the belief that Eric Raymond has in him, he just wasn't able to turn the corner and get that, get any results out of him. It's reported, TVA is reporting that Sam Montembeault was very shaken by the firing of Eric Raymond.
Well, it was good that Jeff Gorton made himself available to the media this week to answer some questions about this because it's obviously a big move anytime any of the coaches get fired mid-season. And one of the things that Gorton was asked was this decision made to bring Marco Marciano up from Laval? Was that decision made because Sam Montembeault had improved so much under Marciano's tutelage in Laval?
Not really. I think it's not really that. I think we just made a decision that it was the right move at this time. And, Eric's in his last year, I think similar to Marty and Dom when we made that switch. It's just something we felt like we probably weren't going forward with Eric at the end of the year. We think a lot about Marco and what he's done down there, and we just thought it was time.
So some interesting information there. Eric wasn't coming back. His contract was not going to be renewed anyway. His contract was coming to an end this summer. And Marco was respected not only as Jeff Gorton said there, But he went on to say that they have been contacted by other teams and asked about the availability of Marco Marciano. He's respected throughout the league and coveted league-wide. So they decided that it was time now to promote Marco Marciano.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's great. And part of, we've talked about how what Marco's work ethic is like, and the kind of respect that he commands from his goaltenders, the kind of work ethic, the kind of intensity, and all of those things. But one of the things that really stands out, and we've seen this, Rick, we've seen it firsthand over the years covering the AHL affiliates of the Canadiens. We saw it in person, in real time, at practices, before and after games and everything, is Marciano's rapport with his goaltenders. And, you know, I don't think we ever saw a goaltender that didn't get along just super well with Marco Marciano. And here's what Jeff Gorton had to say about how that transfers now.
We'll see. You know, Marco's an intelligent guy. Works hard. He's got a good rapport with his goalies. Everybody that we know speaks highly of him. We've had interest from around the league for Marco, so we've sort of held him back, and it's his time. We just felt like this was his time. Marco,
as Jeff Gorton said, is very smart. He's lively when he coaches. He's very talkative, uses his hands a lot, but he has a really good innate ability to break down what's happening and tendencies and all of that. Marco was a video coach as well. He was working two roles for a time. And so he's very good, not only at being able to break down what's going on, but being able to communicate it. He's intense, he's passionate, he demands a lot. And it's his rapport with goaltenders he doesn't become friends with them. No. But the goaltenders he's worked with, and there have been a number of them that we've known, who respect him a lot and respect what he the way he communicates with them and his message, because he gets results.
Yeah, he does. I can't wait to see what he's going. I can't wait to see how much Dobes is going to flourish now for the remainder of the season in the NHL and going forward. Fowler will have something to look forward to once he joins the NHL on a more full-time basis. And I will be fascinated to see how Sam Montembeault adjusts to this. And if anybody can get through to Sam Montembeault and help him, it's going to be Marco Marciano. And we'll see how that goes. Another name that you had mentioned when we started this segment was Stefan Robidas, because the defense just hasn't been great. It hasn't been consistent. It hasn't been reliable. And so that makes the goaltending position that much more difficult, which is the exact opposite thing that you want in a season where one of the goaltenders is really struggling.
The Canadiens, they're scoring goals. They're fourth in the league or thereabouts in goal scoring. And that not only comes from the forwards, but that comes from their production, the mobility, the ability to move the puck from the defense as well. 25th or thereabouts in goals against is not all on the goaltending. There's lots of breakdowns in their own end, lots of turnovers, lots of times being caught up ice. And the system has been under the microscope, and that's a combination of what Stefan Robidas and Marty St. Louis have put out there, the way they communicate how they want their system to work. We talked last week that there's been lots of questions about deployment, putting putting players on the wrong side, like Lane Hudson for a good part of the season. And there was quite a good article in The Athletic this week about how much better Lane Hudson is on his natural side. The reluctance to put Mike Matheson on his right side, on his opposite side. So we talked a little about, and of course the penalty kill has been difficult, and that's under Robita's direction. So the defense is still a work in progress. We saw Gooley and Matheson together for one game against Colorado, and that put Lane Hudson with Dobson, and that seemed to work. They're going back to Dobson with Matheson on Saturday night. So the defense is still a work in progress. Will Robita be one of those positions that is reviewed over the course of the summer? It's not going to happen in season, but and not just Robita, but the defensive system itself, and the deployment of personnel.
Marty St. Louis. Now you've played. The funny thing is, when you asked me to pull some audio clips today, you sent me the audio clips that you wanted pulled, and one of them was tagged as Marty with a quote talking about how he doesn't know goaltending. I automatically assumed this was the same quote that he said a couple of months ago, where he talked about, I don't really know the goaltending position. No, this is a brand new one that just happened this week. So apparently in the last couple of months, Marty still hasn't learned very much about goaltending. Here's what Marty St. Louis had to say this week when asked about how he thinks this shakeup with the goaltending coach is going to affect the goaltenders and the goaltending situation in Montreal.
Well, yeah, you see, that's the thing, like, and I said it before.
We know.
It's the one position that I don't really know. I would have to watch like 10,000 hours and really dive in to really understand, what this coach does well, what this coach does well. For me, I don't know Marco that way. But, I think he's got a great track record. He's done some great work. He knows the goalies. I think it's an easy transition, I think, for the organization. And we'll see where it goes, what it leads. But in the meantime, he's going to be helping our goalies here.
So he's said this 3 or 4 times this season that he doesn't know anything about goaltending. Yet he feels confident making decisions about goaltending. He doesn't know anything about the position, his goaltenders. We heard, is it a week ago or 2 weeks ago, Jakub Dobes said, I've only spoken to Marty St. Louis once this season.
Yeah.
You would figure if you don't know about something, you'd want to find out about something. You'd want to spend some time in the off season learning about something. Buffalo Sabres are against the Canadiens on Saturday night. Last time they met, it was Jay McKee, who's an OHL coach, head coach, former Sabres. He's a very good junior coach. And in an intermission feature, he said, you know what? Every player, as soon as they retire, thinks that they can not only be a good coach, but they can be a better coach than any of the coaches they've ever had. Because they know everything. Former players know everything about coaching. And he said, let me tell you, that's just false. That's just false. Mm-hmm. He said, I've had to learn a lot during the season, spend my off seasons learning. And he's been a junior coach for quite a while, a successful one. And I'd like to see more from Marty. And if not, learn from the folks that do know something about it. And spend some time with your goaltenders. Spend some time with your goaltending coach, which I'm sure he's spent time with Eric Raymond. But why don't you know Marco Marciano? He's you should know all of the coaches in the organization, particularly the ones in Laval. They're the ones that are supposed to be implementing the same sort of structure and systems in Laval. He should have a better handle, in my opinion. He should have a better handle on it.
Well, he mentioned, and it was brought up during this press conference, that St. Louis would collaborate with Eric Raymond to determine who was going to be the starting goaltender game after game. And so Marty was asked, is that going to be the same approach now that Marco Marciano is in place? Is he going to have input into who is starting each night? And here's how St. Louis responded to that.
Well, he doesn't have an influence tomorrow. I think that's going to, we're going to go game by game, but I'm pretty sure I don't just make decision at that position only with my gut feeling. I got to take information, and that's what we try to do, and I'm sure it's going to be the same process with Marco.
With all the information available, why is the gut feeling involved at all? Especially for someone says, I don't know anything about goaltending, but part of the way I make decisions, I use my gut. We get in trouble when we praise Marty all the time. But whenever we criticize Marty for some of these mistakes, we hear about it. We're going to hear about it again. But you can't be objective if you don't react to this kind of stuff. He's got to learn, and of course that he has to bring Marco in and trust Marco, and get to know Marco, and also get to know all of his goaltenders by the end of the season.
Well, particularly, and you're going to hear this a little bit from another clip that we're going to play in a little bit. You need to trust Marco on things. Particularly, he has spent more time with Jakub Dobes than Marty has. Because Dobes has been under Marciano's tutelage way longer than Marty St. Louis has been his head coach. And so Marco Marciano knows Dobes and his personality and his skills and his techniques and his abilities and his strengths and his weaknesses way more than Marty does. I guarantee that.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of Jakub Dobes, we need to talk about him because he's, I mentioned this when we were talking about the game recaps for this week. He has absolutely shined this week in his last 2 consecutive starts. He's getting a 3rd consecutive start on Saturday night. This is what we've wanted to see practically from the beginning of the season. We said, just give the net to Dobes, let him take it. He seems to be just taking this opportunity with both hands. But there seemed to be a little extra spunk on Thursday. And I think, I think that this change is going to be really good for his mindset and his outlook. Do we want to hear from Dobes now, or do you want to talk a little bit about Dobes first?
Let's hear from Jakub Dobes.
Marco, we've been together for a long time. I feel like he kind of made a goalie who I am today. That a lot of stuff that he taught me when I was 20, 21 years old, I still remember till this day, and I'm almost 25. So he's a really smart guy, and I'm excited to pick his brain, and he will pick my brain, and we have a good relationship. So I'm just excited to get going, and it'll be all good. He's a funny guy. So it just makes me feel like have a better mood, and he's kind of like I wouldn't say a second dad, but he's on my ass a lot. So no, he's great. He understands me really well, and I'm just excited to get on the same page with him, and hopefully we'll be even better. And
Well, that kind of answers everything you want to know
Exactly.
about the way Marco Marciano coaches. He's smart, he's funny, but he's intense, and he'll get on me, and kind of like a second dad,
Yeah.
that he's made me the goaltender I am. I still remember what he's told me, and I use that in my game today. Now, we know that Eric Raymond had tried to change Jakub Dobes, and he was a big believer in plopping goaltenders deep in the net, and that seemed to have some success with Sam, although it exposed him in different ways. So whether Marco Marciano will get back to seeing Jakub Dobes under Marciano, the kind of more of a challenging goaltender who would challenge shooters that he has been in the past. We'll see if that happens, but it's clear that Jakub Dobes feels comfortable, feels that his goaltending coach is in his camp, is in his corner, and believes in him. And I think part of what's been missing is that I think that Jakub Dobes hasn't felt that he's had support from the coaching staff at times this season.
I would agree with that, and I think, I think that he's going to get a big boost, and I'm excited to see what we saw how well Dobes played with confidence when he was in the AHL. I'm excited to see what he can do at the NHL level now that he has a good support system right there with him, and I think it's going to be great. I mean, he beat two pretty tough teams this week. And we'll see what he does with his third consecutive start on Saturday night. But
and that's not to say that now Jakub Dobes is necessarily going to go on a run. Because the Canadiens, I don't think, have any plans to change the defense, and their defensive system and the defense. The play in their own zone is still pretty leaky. I do think, though, that the lows will be a little bit less. Because you have a goaltending coach that can help build up the confidence and the whole mental side of the game for Jakub Dobes when he faces challenges.
The only other piece of this puzzle that we haven't talked about is Jacob Fowler. And okay, so now there's the big question mark. What does all of this mean for him?
It's a good question. Jakub Fowler is in Laval. He'll be in Laval through the Olympic break. And he no longer has a goaltending coach. Yeah. Jeff Gorton was asked about that. He said no decisions have been made yet. He acknowledged that. He said that the decisions that they make will be for all goaltenders. This is something that it seems to me that they're going to spend some time figuring out during the Olympic break, whether that means bringing someone in that they trust for Laval, even temporary, whether it means bringing up Jacob Fowler, whatever it means. I think they're going to figure that all out during the Olympic break. And I'll just say again, with respect to Sam, let's hope that Marco Marciano can find a way to get through to him. Sam, be accepting of the coaching that he's given from Marco, and that he improves his game to make him able to start for the Montreal Canadiens, able to be marketable for a trade, whatever the decision is on Montembeault, they have to get him figured out, and at least be able to put him in a place where he can contribute some way to the organization.
Definitely. So we've got a 2-part question for all of you this week on the Canadiens Connection question of the week. The first part of it is this: who are you most comfortable with as the Canadiens goaltending tandem for the rest of the season? So pick 2 of Dobes, Montembeault, Fowler, Kaapo Kahkonen. Pick two of them. Who are you the most comfortable with as the Montreal Canadiens goaltending tandem for the rest of this season? Secondly, of that tandem, who should get the most starts? Who are you most comfortable with as the Canadiens goaltending tandem for the rest of the season? Pick two of Jakub Dobes, Sam Montembeault, Jakub Fowler, Kaapo Kahkonen, and then tell us which one of them should get the most starts. The ways to send in your responses, you can text them to us on the Rocket Sports text line. If you're not familiar with it, it is 5852-ROCKET.
585-3-ROCKET.
Not 2-ROCKET. 5853-ROCKET. Sorry about that. Let's try that again. 5853-ROCKET. You can also leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. You can find that at InsideTheCanadiens.com. You can leave us a comment on Spotify if that's how you consume the podcast. You can send us a message on social media, either a reply or a DM at Habs Connection on X, on Facebook, or on Instagram. Lots of different ways to get in touch with us. Send us your answers, and we'll definitely be reading the best replies next week on the show. With that in mind, we're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors at DraftKings one more time. And when we come back, we've got some great replies of yours to last week's Canadiens Connection question of the week that we're going to share with you. You don't want to miss it, so don't go away. You're listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
The jaw-dropping moments that make hockey, hockey. Experience them all with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Missouri listeners, listen up. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in the Show Me State. New customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. Pass-through of per-wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21-plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright NHL 2025. All rights reserved.
And welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast right here on Rocket Sports Radio, episode 385 of the Canadiens Connection podcast. And hey, if you've been a subscriber of ours for a long time, maybe even for all 385 episodes, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your loyal listenership, viewership. We so value each and every one of you. If you have not yet subscribed, now is a perfect time to do that. Takes just a second to do. Just tap that subscribe button, subscribe on the YouTube channel, leave a review or a like if you're able to do that on the platform that you're currently listening to or watching the podcast. And really a terrific way for you to help us if you're able to do so, takes just a second, is share this episode. Just tap the share button and share this episode with your social media followers. Don't forget to send us your answers to this week's Canadiens Connection two-part question of the week. First up, telling us who you're most comfortable with as the Habs goaltending tandem for the rest of this season. So which two of Dobes, Montembeault, Fowler, or Kahkonen do you think should carry the load for the rest of the year? And of those two, then, who should get the most starts? Now, last week, obviously this was brewing, because we asked you last week, has Sam Montembeault done enough to convince you his goaltending struggles are behind him? We had some interesting replies. I actually first want to turn to one of my colleagues here at Rocket Sports, Mike R. He always has a very thoughtful reply when he chimes in on our Canadiens Connection question of the week. And he said this to us this week, said,
Can I just put this in context for a second?
sure.
Because this comment came in before the change of the goaltending coach.
Yes,
This came in beforehand.
that's true.
So let's just to add the context to it.
That's correct. So Mike says, I understand the urgency to fix the position, but besides Monty, everybody else on the depth chart has performed admirably. I don't think it's the right message for the rest of the goaltenders in the organization to patchwork the issue at the highest level. I say give Dobes 2 of the next 3 starts until the Olympic break, and if Monty continues to struggle with just 1 game a week, then call up Kahkonen. He's got a lot of experience in the backup role at the NHL level, and it allows Fowler to get experience with the hectic schedule of a bona fide pro starter. He goes on to say that both Gaudreau and Jones down in the ECHL with the Trois-Rivières Lions are very capable of taking on more of a role in the ECHL. If in the AHL, I think he means, if one was called up to be Fowler's backup, if Kahkonen came up with the Canadiens. So interesting that this was, again, before the change took place, but that Mike R. is saying, go with Dobes, ride it, and see how Sam does. And if Sam still can't put it together before the Olympic break, then call up Kahkonen to be Dobes's backup until the Olympic break, and then figure things out from there. Not a bad suggestion at all.
Yeah,
I like that
absolutely.
way of thinking, and we always appreciate when Mike chimes in. He's always got great ideas.
I have time for just one more, and I'm going to go to X for this comment. Came from @HabsRoll26. He went in a different direction in talking about defensemen and the defensive coverage and what we were just talking about, the defensive system. HabsRoll26 says, we are in the minority. I think he's including me in that. We are in the minority, but I agree with your take on Matheson, Carrier, Dobson standing around and losing one-on-one battles. They're mobile, but they are so easy to play against. We need more grit. When Marty St. Louis shortens the bench, Hudson is the only defenseman who consistently wins puck battles of the 4. Interesting comment. Great comment.
Yeah.
And yes, I think we're in the minority on that. Marty St. Louis spoke about whether he has a mobile defense or a physical defense this week. We're going to save that quote for next week's show. Maybe we'll be talking a little bit more about the defenseman. Again, thanks to Habs Rule for that comment.
Definitely. And thank you to all of you who send in your replies, responses, questions. We love to read them. We love to respond to them. And we love picking out the best ones to read on the show. So be sure you get in your answers to this week's Canadiens Connection question of the week. While you are watching all of the hockey action on this last week leading up to the Olympic break, the Canadiens in action 3 more times, kicking things off on Saturday night in Buffalo, playing Buffalo for the 3rd time this month. Big stakes. Nick Suzuki calling it the biggest game of the season. Lots of 2 big points on the line, particularly for the Atlantic Division. Then on Monday, looks like we're back to that Amazon Prime Canada Monday Night Hockey, because Montreal will be visiting Minnesota and taking on the Wild at 7:30 p.m. on Monday night. And then on Wednesday, February 4th, Montreal heading to Winnipeg to take on the Jets on Wednesday. So you've got Saturday night, you've got Monday night, you've got Wednesday night. Friday night, enjoy the Olympic opening ceremonies. Sure that they're going to be pretty spectacular. And then Saturday, you better believe we'll be back here for our next episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast. We'll talk about how this, it's going to be an interesting show, I think, because it'll be how this part of the season wraps up with these last 3 games. What do we see with the goaltending? What do we see with, is there injury updates and things like that? And then
if there's any trades prior to the freeze.
Trade, that's right, before the trade freeze, and then setting up what's going to happen during the Olympic break, setting up what's going to happen with the Habs Olympic contenders, all of those kinds of things. So it's going to be a great show next Saturday, February 7th. You don't want to miss it. Thank you, as always, for spending some time here with us on the Canadiens Connection podcast, and we'll see you next time right here on Rocket Sports Radio.